is adopting general managers here, right?
Yes.
So we have the director of player personnel, the 6 that were still in the league, they're moving up into that position. And then we got some two hires here, which are pretty solid. And I mean, I think we have a little bit of some extra notes around it too, just from, things we may have heard that we can kind of enlighten on. But let's start here. Let's go over the guys we have. So the Maulers, which Zach, man, we've been seeing them picking up people left and right. Right.
Right.
And so
they're
now
very active.
They're making another hire here, Lonnie Young. And then over for the Bandits, we have Dave Razzano. Now, Zach, I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you did this because you have some notes here that I probably would not have found. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but let's go over some of the goodies that you found here, because I think this is some interest. Some of it's some interesting stuff hidden in here, hidden within the layers, if you will.
Yeah, a little bit here as we go for each one. We'll start off with Lonnie Young, which Lonnie, I mean, I'll admit he's been a little bit less kept of a secret. There has been some discussion on him. Actually, Jaron even talked about him in our last episode. So it's nice to get this official announcement as well as adding in Dave Razzano. But for Lonnie Young, Young's journey is pretty interesting in football. Was drafted by both the USFL, the OG one, by the way. We always reference the OG in this show as the old one in the 80s. He was drafted in 85 by the Generals, also by the St. Louis Cardinals in 1985. He then went with the NFL route at that time. Played for 12 years in the NFL between St. Louis and the Arizona Cardinals. Also was with the San Diego Chargers, the New York Jets, and had, well-rounded defensive back. He was able to play for 12 seasons. That's a long NFL career, and he parlayed that into a scouting career as well. In 2001, kind of began his NFL scouting career. Has worked in that department or in a capacity in that department for well over or close to 20 plus years. His last position was actually with the Baltimore Ravens with national scouting. And now here he is, an example of a guy that's going to be getting a little bit of a boost at the position, maybe a next level role. Meanwhile, you look at Dave Razzano, he's been basically scouting his entire life. In one way or another, that has been his capacity in the NFL. Some of the places he stopped at: San Francisco, St. Louis, the Rams, that is, back at the time, as well as the Arizona Cardinals and the Indianapolis Colts. His most recent position, he was the director of player research director of football research, that is, with the Las Vegas Raiders up until the recent coaching regime change, and now he's here with the Tampa Bay Bandits. From basically gathering his background, if we're kind of comparing and also going off the quote that we'll read from Todd Haley, the two kind of interact with each other over of course many years in the NFL. But specifically, if it's matching up correct, I'm pretty sure they work together with the Arizona Cardinals. Still fully trying to confirm that, but based on the resumes and the info I can gather, those two have worked together in capacity between the years 07 and 08. That was during that Super Bowl run with Kurt Warner at the time. And yeah, I would say Todd has some good words for his new general manager. And honestly, Stefan, I would like you to do this. Here's something we got from the league just to clarify the structure. Because some of the naming's changed, but they want to say that it's not your traditional GM coaching relationship. It's kind of flipped. If you think about last year, it still kind of stays that similar vein with how the director of player personnels were looked at, if you want to explain.
Sure, Zach. I'd love to explain that. I didn't need to cut this video at all. So here's the real situation, folks. So when you look at the NFL, the coaches, they're reporting to the general managers. The USFL is doing things a little bit differently. When you look back to last year with the director of player personnel, they reported to the coaches. And they were really more in charge of the scouting. Moving into that general manager role, they're still going to be working on the scouting, maybe some more expanded roles and responsibilities, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be reporting to the coaches. It's a little bit different. But that's how you kind of want to do things with these spring leagues. You want to tweak, you want to test, because at the same point, like maybe somewhere down the line, this will change and become a little bit more traditional. But for now, if it worked last year, it works this year, and now I like the new titles too. You kind of have, I don't know what the right term is for it, but maybe a little bit more allegiance to your team. Hey, you know what? I'm a general manager now. We have maybe a little bit more funding. I don't know. This is not anything I've heard, so sorry.
Sure.
But maybe they have a little bit more funding, a little bit, because I mean, we've seen Robert Morris is a great example. That dude's everywhere, it seems like. And even just with the amount of guys that have come on since Lonnie Young has kind of been introduced to the Maulers organization, there's some things cooking. And maybe now with Dave Razzano down there in the Bandits, because I know there was some hemming and hawing from the Bandits crew of like, hey, well, why aren't there as many pickups coming? But we've kind of seen them start grabbing some guys, and I would assume that's because he's been lurking in the background as well. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the switcheroo here, Zach?
Yeah, I think it's to more designate roles to better fit the teams and make them more, I guess, a little bit more individualized than last season as well. Because the way that they also stress this in the press release, they kind of give the hierarchy of the scouting and personnel department. Mm-hmm. So you have your 8 general managers at least former defense directors of player personnel for those teams that have now been converted to general managers. They are then going to be working closely with the USFL director of player personnel, John Peterson, who then works also with director of player administration, Jim Popp.
Right.
So that is the new format on how this works. You basically kind of goes up the rung a little bit. Mm. Jim Popp's been kind of the main man heading up kind of the player recruitment efforts for the league to kick things off last year. Now you got a little bit more diversification on some roles. And really, I think you need it for, the increased competition, but you also need it because the league's trying to grow itself. It's not rushing and having to cut as many, if any, corners this year, just because, they have a whole year under their belt. Now they can start expanding. They can start spreading out a little more, doing more things that traditionally they can do with a whole season. This, I think, is one of them. And I also think general manager, just in terms of title, I think it's a better, representation of what players want in terms of like reporting, in terms of like what you want in terms of relating to the team. The only thing that's different is that, and I think it's just because spring football format, the coaches focus on the football. So they get to have the final say on the football. They also keep in mind, they're the ones that are knowing what their team needs and struggles the most. So the general managers will know that too, but they're the first contact to say, hey, I need some people bad that are like this.
Right.
I need some receiver help. Can you go look for it? I need a young guy. I need like a speedster. I need a running back that's a bruiser. We can maybe do a thunder and lightning concept. I need a good tackle, a young tackle. Someone maybe got overlooked. This is what you are getting at. It's basically you're enhancing your scouting department. They kind of relabel, they kind of retitled as well as kind of reorganized some pieces as well as new hires. And it's just a continued new refocused effort back on the scouting, which this has been going on for several months now. This is, to me, some of this announcement's more of a formality.
100%, yeah.
For the sake of it.
Well, and here's the thing. What this shows is that the league is evolving. We're seeing more structure. Rather than them kind of step back, we're seeing the evolution, right? I've mentioned it almost weekly on this show. But let's go back to before the USFL ever played it down. Daryl Moose Johnston. Year 1, get on the field and get it done. Get through the championship. Year 2, improve. And that's what we're seeing here. We already know that there's either an extra hub, some more hubs. There's a hub situation in the works to where we're going to get more than Birmingham. You know what? So there's some improvement. This right here, more structure or more solidified structure or more balanced or written out. I don't know the best way to articulate that, but more structure at the end of the day, just from the administrative end, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're already seeing players get signed left and right to where, man, you already have a pool of guys that, that aren't going to make the final roster, but that helps in the fact of when that draft comes up because, we still don't know. We know that there's players returning. We just don't know how many and how many, how many players these teams are going to have to account for. So either way, this is going to be helpful in that hunt right there. And I mean, you can see it. Like you said, this is not something new. This is more of a formality, it feels like. But you can see it with the amount of signings that we have been seeing. It's been, I mean, we're almost up to 100 free agent signings. Almost up to 100.
Right. I mean, it's summer stockpiling. Honestly, it's funny now, even New Orleans has had recent signings. The one that's been kind of lax lately, some people have said, is Birmingham, but I think their plan, I'm feeling, is that they feel they have a lot of guys from that team that will return. So maybe they don't have to do as much because it's like, hey, we got our core. We have a championship roster here already. If we need anything, we can maybe get it later on in the offseason right now. Because, I mean, honestly, the teams that need the most reinforcement, to me, for the likes of the Maulers and the Panthers, they've been doing a lot of active free agency. The Maulers in particular, Lonnie Young has jumped in and has kind of said, I'm just going for anyone and everyone that I'm getting requests from, whether it's Jaron Horton, whether it is, of course, Kirby Wilson, who's running the offensive duties, remember. So they want they want at least the offensive side to improve greatly, which they've invested a ton in so far this offseason. And Razzano jumping in, he started making more and more signings. The Bandits are starting to pick up the pace a little bit on some of these pickups. One of them is actually we're going to have later on the show that we have an interview with. I'll wait until we announce that. But just saying that, clearly the focus is to get talent, and they are doing a really solid job, I think, getting guys in to, at the very least, compete in training camps coming up later in March. Should be a fun time. And also something I wanted to say that I am going to reconfirm myself. I look silly because, of course, the press release, we're going to read off these quotes. And the press release says, of course, that Razzano worked for Arizona between 06 and 09, matches up because Todd Haley worked as the Cardinals offensive coordinator in 2007 and 2008. So I did a lot of extra work for no reason and totally spaced that I had the press release to lead on in the first place.
It happens to the best of us. I mean, no curtains. That's why I love this show.
Yeah. What can I do?
So speaking of the quote, you want to go through the quote?
Yeah, we got two of them here, both from the head coaches. So of course, remember they're bringing these guys in to work under their own umbrellas. So Kirby Wilson here on Lonnie Young, quote, Lonnie Young is a proven winner in the NFL, and he's already making an impact as our new general manager, end quote, which, yes, as we've stated, very much already has signed on the most signings in the league. Kirby continues, winning a championship starts with player scouting and evaluation together. I look forward to working with Lonnie to deliver the USFL title to Pittsburgh Maulers fans. Bold statement. I hope that you are hoping that it is a turnaround, but boy, a 0 to hero type of story would be fascinating.
I'm telling you, I can feel it they're definitely not going to be the Maulers of last year. That's all I'll say.
No.
But
they shouldn't be.
Boy, I mean, they could set themselves up to be trouble. Now, real quick, let me deviate. I saw an article earlier this week, since we're talking about the Maulers and Kirby Wilson, that said pizza is more motivating than raises.
And so, that's a lie to me, but
I agree. But you know what? Kirby, maybe have him a little slice or two, maybe. And you know what? Maybe that'll be a little bit of the key.
He had an epiphany in the offseason. That's what it is. He had an epiphany during the offseason.
Well, and check this out. Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
I was like, some of his global travels. I mean, hey, I don't know specifically where globally, because he's apparently internationally had been traveling this offseason. Maybe Italy. Maybe he stops in Italy or Greece. Picks up a nice one from the corner plaza pizzeria and goes, my God, I was wrong.
Well, here's the thing. It's like a double win because, the article says pizza is a bigger motivator than getting a raise. Well, in the USFL, you give them the pizza. It gives them the motivation. You win the game. You get a bonus. And so, I mean, this is like a win-win. Kirby, my man. You know what?
Can you believe everyone's held on to the pizza jokes this long?
I'm just, you know what? Maybe just a slice. Let's see what happens game one. Then we reevaluate.
Yep. Time will tell. They're getting, like I said, plenty of good signings. More still coming. And actually a bit of a Bit of another development will be we'll talk next after I read off this Dave Razzano related quote from Todd Haley from the press release. Quote from Todd Haley, that is, I've known Dave Razzano for a long time through our NFL careers, and he is an excellent evaluator of talent and will be a huge asset to me and our team, end quote. Next quote here goes, I'm really excited to work alongside Dave as our new general manager as we build a championship team. This quote also mentions that, again, I overworked myself in even doing this. I should have never touched even going into my extra Google searches because it was simply right there that, yes, who is also the Arizona Cardinals offensive coordinator during the 2008 Super Bowl team. They both worked in Arizona. I did too much work looking up this stuff going in.
Well, you know what? It just shows your dedication for the facts, Zach. So you know what? At least we had it just in case. But sign us up. But you know what? Yeah, an interesting twist here. Have a past working relationship. They already know kind of, okay, I know what Coach Haley, what he's really looking for, or at least you would assume having that. And I mean, like you mentioned, 2008 Cardinals, not a bad year for him.
No,
so,
not at all.
Could be another turnaround. Not that the Bandits were nearly in the position that the Maulers were in, but you would think that they want to at least get into the playoff.